Hey guys, thanks for joining us back out at the Range Report. And as you can see, we're not at the range, but we're in my office, and we were planning on doing a little bit of an unboxing video for you. Things kind of got changed up a little bit because we had already taken the gun out and taken our first shots with it, and we wanted to kind of mix that in with this video. But we had a lot of problems when we got out to the range with this particular gun, and it's a little bit of a gut punch because we picked up that gun in lieu of the one that we really wanted to pick up. And then, when we get it out to the range, I mean, you load your mags, you get your eyes and ears on, get your targets downrange, and when you have 14 consecutive malfunctions, and then another 30 or so malfunctions within the next 50 rounds, it's a little disheartening, to say the least, especially when you know that the gun should not be doing that, and the reputation tells you it should not be doing that, but that you also know that the gun you went in for, that you changed your mind on, also wouldn't be doing that. But I digress. I want to introduce you to the firearm that we picked up, and we have since, I'm not selling the gun short, since we figured out what was causing the problem and we remedied it at the range, the gun ran flawlessly, ran absolutely perfect. However, what we found and what we corrected, we don't think is a long-term solution for the problem. I think it's going to actually reoccur in time, and I think that this company might want to figure out some way to address it. So hopefully, if they get wind of this video and the solution that we come up with, maybe they will. Maybe they won't. I don't know. We have hopes. It's the best we can do. But in the meantime, let me introduce you to what we picked up. This is the Smith and Wesson M&P. This is the all-metal 2.0 compensated series. This is a 9mm, and this thing comes loaded. You're looking at an MSRP about $975, $995, somewhere in there. And you're talking about a gun that has just about every bell and whistle on it that you want. You got your 3-slot pick rail on it, your compensated threaded barrel, you got night sights on it, which are already adjusted for you to put a can on the front of it. You've got 5 interchangeable back straps that come with it. It is already optic ready. It comes with a series of different plates that you got right here in the bag that you can mount for just about any kind of optic footprint that you want. It comes with 4 magazines. You get 2 17-round, I believe, magazines, or 14-round magazines. Let me check real quick. Yep, 17-round magazines. 2 17-round magazines and 2 22-round magazines. So the 22-rounders are right here. And, of course, you got a nice, big, thick, beefy extension on this thing. And when you load this up, I mean, you're ready for business with that. You've got nice size reversible mag release on it. You got, they're not exactly low profile, but for your slide stop release, they're ambidextrous, really good control. The gun feels great. You've got a trigger that is in and around 4 pounds. This is one of the more strange triggers that I've felt on recent outings. There's a lot of take up in the trigger until you get to the wall. Now the wall breaks. I'm going to try and get that into focus here for you. It breaks right around 3.5, 4 pounds, but okay. It's not letting me rack the slide on it because of the problem that I was going to tell you about. But getting back to the trigger, I'm going to rack the slide now. Here's your test fire. Here's your reset. Is hardly audible and hardly tactile. It's a very short reset, but there's very, very little impulse react that you get back from the gun to let you know when it resets. So there is a good possibility of short stroke in the trigger. We didn't do it at the range. We was very deliberate. Once we tested the trigger out, we knew what we were against. So we fully come off the trigger to come back for follow-up shots. But I can imagine that if you shoot and you reset, if you don't come all the way back out, it's easy enough to miss that wall. So that's one thing. Now, one of the problems that we found with this thing was in the compensator. The compensator's got 2 set screws. I'm going to see if you can pick that up. You got one here, and then you've got one directly on the opposite side of it. There's 2. Now, those set screws, they seemed fairly tight when we took it out to the range and the compensator was in a fixed position. But as soon as we fired the first round with it, the compensator shifted just enough that, now, if you can see that there's a certain amount of daylight between the guide rod and the compensator. Now, the compensator has got this little pocket in there that, under normal circumstances, when that slide comes back, the guide rod nests into the compensator. However, when it doesn't, if it's not perfectly lined up, it's not going to slide back properly. Now, that's if it's blocking it the whole way. It's just not going. Now, if it catches, what happened with us is the compensator shifted just enough where it was catching the front of the guide rod. The slide would come back, but it would not come back to full stroke. By not going back to full stroke, the rounds didn't have enough room to eject, and the slide didn't have enough forward momentum to pick up the following round. So the following rounds were just stovepiping. They were catching on the rim. We got all the cartridges that we saved. They were fairly well battered up from the reciprocal action of the slide catching the back of the rim, and then you could see where they were getting jammed up. We couldn't figure out. I mean, we ran one 17-round magazine through it, and we had 17 malfunctions. And we were having a hard time figuring out why it was doing it, because when we looked at it, the compensator was barely out of line. And that's all it took for that slide to not operate properly. Now, after a while, we thought, okay, maybe it's the ammunition. Let's check the ammunition. Let's check the magazines and everything else. So we put in one of the 22s. We swapped ammunition brands, went with something heavier. We know the compensated guns usually want, especially 9s, they want to run, 120, 124, 125, whatever. We ran 115s just to see if it would run it. It had some problems with it. And when we switched to the 124s, we said, maybe that'll correct it. And it didn't. We still had malfunctions with it, except not as frequently. We didn't know what was going on, and then we said, all right, let's load the magazines. Let's try every one of them, because we had 4 that came with us. We forgot one at the house. My cousin Steve was with us, and he looked at the gun, and he said, is that set screw supposed to be that far out? I looked at the gun. The set screw on the passenger side was almost all the way out to the point. It was just one thread holding it in. And that's when we noticed that the compensator itself was kicked a little bit to one side. Now, being a little concerned, we tightened it all up, we lined it back up, and we continued shooting. Within about 10 rounds, it was kicked over again, except this time the set screw was gone completely. We took us about an hour. You can imagine trying to find an 1/8-inch long set screw on a floor full of brass. Not exactly an easy procedure, but we did find it, put it back in the gun, and we torqued it down. We don't have a torque wrench with us or anything else like that, and we didn't want to over tighten them. We didn't want to possibly break the wrench or strip out the screw, so we tightened them as to the best as what we figured we could get, and continued shooting. It ran well for another 20 or 30 rounds, and then boom, compensator was twisted again. Now, we took the compensator off completely, and when we took it off completely, we did notice that there is a little bit, or was a little bit at the time of some red thread locker. Still a little bit on there right now. Some red thread locker. It's only on the last 1 or 2 threads. Now, if you're running a can, you put your can on, your can is round. It doesn't matter where the thing indexes when you get it tightened down. So you can torque that thing down as nice and tight as you want to, and even if it comes a little bit loose, it's still not going to interfere with the operation of the gun. You may lose gas pressure, you may lose some of the suppressive features of it, but the worst case scenario, it flies off the end of the gun, but it's still going to function. When this compensator goes out of a line, it locks the whole gun up. And we don't necessarily know why they designed it the way they did. What we do know is that the threading, there's enough barrel that's unthreaded behind where the set screws are, that if Smith and Wesson wanted to take a little bit of a time and put 2 little dimples in the bottom in the far end of the barrel, so that when those set screws go in, they index into a detent in the barrel, they would have to get pretty loose in order for them to come out of alignment. That's a solution that I hope they would take a look at. We're going to make the suggestion to them, even if it comes at the cost of having to get this barrel drilled. Here's the thing. I'm not going to carry this gun. I'm not going to compete with this gun. I buy guns because I want to present them to the channel. I want to find nice guns that I'm going to enjoy shooting, that I'm going to have other people that are going to enjoy, and I want you guys to see firsthand what the guns do and whether or not they're worth your $975. We're not getting anything for free from anybody. We're buying everything. So if we're going to crap on something, it's going to be a justifiable pile. Now, when we ran this thing again, we took the compensator off completely. It comes with a nice threaded cap. We put the threaded cap on it, and it ran like a sewing machine. Ran absolutely beautiful. At 30 feet, I was putting groups together of 2 inches in the 10 ring at 22 rounds with no problem at all. This thing is a tack driver. But it only helps if it works. And if it doesn't work, and God forbid you're somebody who's going to decide to buy one of these and carry one of these, and that thing just gets a little bit out of index, you're out of luck. And this, as far as we're concerned, is going to be a reliability issue. And as far as you may have watched the channel, when it comes to reliability, that is our number 1 priority on the show. Whenever it comes to anything having to do with the guns, if a gun is not reliable, you can't carry it. You can't bet your life on something if it's not going to be reliable. Now, if Smith can come up with some innovative way of repairing this, other than including a little bit of red thread locker, it would be nice. Spring-loaded detent, maybe. I don't know. Maybe there's got to be a way. Even if they put the little detent marks, there's got to be some way for you to be able to put a compensator on the end of this barrel and not have it come out of index, even if it means that you have to sacrifice it riding on that guide rod, because it seems that if I rotate this thing, out of the way 90 degrees, the slide's going to work. As soon as I put it 5 degrees out and I catch it just a little bit, you got a problem. So if you're going to run one of these things, please be mindful of that you might want to just use the compensator for going to the range with. But if you're going to carry it, put the thread cap on it, carry it that way. It's going to be 100% more reliable than what I can tell right now. Other than that, man, it sucks because the gun is really enjoyable. I mean, it's a beautifully made gun. It's got every bell and whistle that you want on it. It doesn't have a threaded, a chamber indicator on it. That's the one thing that's missing. It doesn't have a striker indicator. You have a peephole, and that's it. So always assume it's loaded. But that's it. I mean, it's a beautiful gun. It's very well made. It's I'm not. We have other shields in the collection. I'm not a big fan of them because they're single stack, and I never could really get a good purchase in the web of my hand. This thing really fit me like a glove, that I can hold this in one hand confidently, securely, and I could shoot this in one hand all day and not have a problem with it. And it really does, it really does present well. But when it came down to it, as far as reliability went, not so much. That was a big issue. So I'm going to cut it short right there. This is just our little, and just to show you, it comes with this beautiful case. It comes with a beautiful case, everything you could want, and it's got a couple little tools. It has this really, 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 really cool knife that comes with it. So if you want to, gut whatever you shot, you got something there you can do. And most importantly, and you can't have a tactical OD green gun unless it comes with a challenge coin. So so that makes all the difference in the world. So when the gun doesn't work properly, you just remember you got a challenge coin to alleviate some of those concerns, because that's what's most important, right? Is a challenge coin. But you guys take it for what it's worth. This is Frank from the Ranger Boat. We just want you guys to, as always, be safe and shoot straight.